It's a pretty special session that we're running this morning. And it's kept me awake most nights with little bits and pieces of things, especially being in this space, because we actually had a lot of events in this actual building with Janette. And last night I remembered at 2 o'clock in the morning when my 4-year-old fell out of her bed, and I couldn't get back to sleep. I was like, I forgot to ask my partner to bring the scarf that I got from Janette's memorial. I'm not a ceremonial type. Jeanette definitely was, and that was on my mind last night, and I'm glad Jill remembered to bring hers, because one thing that I feel I'm already a bit remiss in is bringing some ceremony to this session, which I think Janette probably would have had that little bit of a touch. So it's probably the hardest presentation I think I've ever had to prepare. It's already happening. I cried when I spoke at a funeral, I cried when I spoke at a memorial. I'm probably going to cry for the next hour and a half. But I think that speaks volumes to Janette and her legacy. So I'm just going to start off by introducing our panel members and also acknowledge Janette's family here. We're recording for the sons who can't be here. Thank you for coming along today. And get our panel to just introduce themselves and just to say one little bit of a connection, because there's going to be lots of other connections through today's presentation that they'll talk about, but just one little thing that connects them to Janette. So just who you are and a little connection, if you don't mind. Who wants to start? Yeah, Monica.
Around? Okay. I'm Monica B. I work for the Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority, but in a past life was a teacher. And my connection to Janette was through, she ran professional learning when I was in level 1. I think we trained together for level 2. And she was a neighbour of mine in Northcote, sunny Northcote. And knows my kids. And I guess, and I know Janette as being a committee member as well, where I served as membership secretary, and actually remember getting yours, Bonnie, in writing it in, your very first membership, and worked as treasurer as well, so knew Janette from that angle of running a subject association as well.
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, my name is Janette Students. I'm assistant principal at Camberwell High School, and about 20 years ago I was doing my graduate diploma of education here at Melbourne Uni, and one of my teachers at the time suggested that I meet up with Monica was on the committee as well, but with Janette in particular, and I got to meet her. My methods were philosophy and English, and I realised that the practice of philosophy was just as important as the content stuff that I was accumulating and learning about, and it was a wonderful introduction to VAPS and to FAPSA and to our international community that she opened the door to, and we had a lot to do with each other as well when I took over the VAPS chair at one point for a few years, and we had the fantastic opportunity to be working with teachers across the state, but also in particular with quite a number of students in various schools, and so that's been my connection.
Thanks, Bill. Can I start by acknowledging also the traditional custodians of the lands that we're in, lands of unceded lands, I should say, that we're in, lands of the Orangery World, people of the Kulin Nation. I often get reminded of minoritized groups, those who've been let down by our educational systems historically. When I think of Janette, I think of those who bring it down by education bit. Also a little bit emotional. I am a senior lecturer here at the non-graduate school of education, soon to be faculty of education. I met Emmanuel first, and also worked with Janette on the executive committee of the Victorian Association of Philosophy in Schools. And we were colleagues here in the University of Melbourne, teaching philosophy, specific subjects, and training the new generation of teachers who are coming through. But I had more so than Janette did.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tristan Hill, and I served as the chair of VAPS for 6 years. It feels like a very long time ago before I had kids, so I had time to do that. And I served with Janette on the committee for 6 years, and it was an absolute delight. I just want to say that I'm really privileged to be up here on stage to celebrate a remarkable woman and a significant life and a significant impact she's had on philosophy and philosophy teaching in Victoria, and to sit here with such esteemed colleagues too. Thank you.
My name is Jill, and I don't teach, I wish I could teach someone else. I'm the assistant principal, an assistant principal at Brunswick Primary School. I met Janette maybe a long time ago. I enrolled for a level 1 course, and that changed so many things about my life. My teaching, my approach to teaching, the school I work at, lots and lots of things. Janette, I've worked with training adults, I've travelled with her, we've done peer events. She became a friend, not only a colleague, and yeah, I think that's what I'm going to say right now.
Yes, hi, my name is Philip Cam. I'm a philosopher by trade. I spent most of my career, some 30 odd years, at the University of New South Wales, which I'm still sort of loosely affiliated, and became interested in philosophy of children through Laurie Spirit, who I expect to see here today, but he's not here yet. I see he's on the program still, so I hope he turns up. And became involved in philosophy in schools in its foundational years here in Australia, and also worked extensively with Matthew Lippman and Anne-Margaret Sharp and colleagues. And I got to know Janette eventually because Janette kept inviting me to come and run level 2 workshops here in Victoria. So we did a lot of those over the years in all sorts of conditions, some of which I might venture to talk about later on. They're amusing, some of them. Frustrating at the time, but amusing in retrospect. And also I knew Janette very well from VAPS, the Federation of Australasian Philosophy Schools Associations, which I've been involved for many years. Or was involved for many years, and she was heavily involved in that in all sorts of ways at conferences, both here and elsewhere.
Thank you. Do you guys want to keep that one because there's one here?
Oh, okay.
You guys, most of you know me, Bonnie. I work at Direct High. I'm not going to say anything here because my journey with Janette is pretty much mapped out through today's presentation. And the way it's going to work is that there's about 180 photos that I've collated over the last couple of months. Mostly with Janette. The ones that don't have Janette is probably because she took them, of things that she was engaged in. And if by any chance you happen to see yourself in a photo, there's a few of you here who are in those photos, and the moment takes you and you want to say, hey, yeah, I remember that, and this is something that I remember about Janette, you're most welcome to do that. Although a common thread that runs throughout Janette's involvement in anything is the capacity to make it go a lot longer. in a very generous way, of course, but frustrating at times too. So we do only have an hour and a half, as much as there's a lot that we could talk about for a long time. In doing this, I'm trying to hold the threads of Janette's work and life. Was in itself a philosophical exercise, and last week I was at the first VAPS camp that Ben did an amazing job at organising. And at that camp we talked about the connections between everything, particularly in nature, because it was a nature-based camp. As I was reworking this PowerPoint and the pictures, I was keep thinking about that, and I was just thinking about all of the connections and how Janette seems to be connected to pretty much everything. Philosophy for children in Victoria, Australia, Asia, and her web does creep out of those areas as well. So you'll see that today, and I'm going to invite our panellists to, particularly when they appear in a particular photo, to speak to the events in those photos, Janette's contribution to what's happening in them. I also want to try and keep it happy, and because Janette's life was one of joy and playfulness, and we're going to talk a bit about that. And so if you've got something joyful or playful that you remember about Janette, like this morning when I was walking in here, I had a strong memory, and I just knew that the other day I saw a photo of, I can't remember his name, but did anybody come to a forum here when we had you were here, Tristan, Venerable, the Buddhist monk?
Jacobson.
Yeah, something like that. And it became an ongoing joke about this particular Buddhist monk, because you wouldn't think of a Buddhist monk as being arrogant, but actually it was quite arrogant. And I just had that memory of Janette and I just having a giggle about this Buddhist monk. And I don't know if you were at that particular forum. Yeah, he had a bit of an air about him that didn't feel quite Buddhist to me.
Because the topic was the self.
Yes. And the denial of the self, and the text, the kingdom, So that was so we had this ongoing thing. So if you've got things like that to share, please do. So we're going to just start a little bit about Janette, the person. Because obviously, she's more than philosophy for children. She was a person, and she had lots of other interests beyond philosophy. The boys could probably speak to this, but she was in music. I know she even started doing ukulele more recently. She was involved in a drum circle. She was very much into ceremony. This is your grandmother's sort of ceremony, like a memorial to your grandmother, and she also brought these sorts of aspects of ceremony or to philosophy. She would have like a little artifact maybe from overseas that she would use as a prop or a stimulus or some kind of tool to add a different element. So she was also a very ceremonial person, not in a necessarily religious sense, but and a family person. You just troll through her Facebook photos, and it's photos of the boys when they were younger, and older when they've got grandkids, and older again, and then as a grandmother. She definitely adored her grandchildren. I know she spoke regularly about them when we did meet, and particularly some joyous moments was like, I think you guys went to India or Warrnambool during COVID, like in a COVID break, or she was down there and she had some time with the kids down there, and that was pretty special. Yeah. Yeah. I just love that photo. I think at some point someone here on the panel will talk to this photo, but I think it links to her cheekiness.
It's in Madrid.
Yeah, Madrid. I don't know, maybe Judy, you want to talk to it now?
We were out for dinner
Yes,
and they had a bit of a shine to each other.
Oh, sorry.
They were out for dinner and they just sort of had a bit of a connection, and we took a couple of photos and he was a bit of a flirt. Janette quite like that.
Yeah. He was the later, right?
Yeah. And he was Spanish.
Yeah. And you can just see, the gleam in both their eyes. Yeah. And she was obviously a great traveller, and a lot of the philosophy she did took her to places around the world, and she often embraced a lot of the cultural aspects of the places that she travelled, and would bring back things and stories from those places. I think that one's Vietnam, and the previous one was Indonesia. This one's definitely Vietnam. And then also a bit just cheeky in general. I think this is one whose motorbike is this? Julian's motorbike? Yeah. Did she ever actually take it for a spin? No, not for a spin, but the thought of Janette on a motorbike scares me. Again, I think that's Singapore. And international friendships, and I know Megan, not up on the panel, but you wanted to say a few words about Janette today. Would you like to come up and do that?
Yeah, sure. So I met Janette in the early 80s. And so we discovered philosophy for children at a very similar time in our lives, and we were able to catch up anytime she and I were at the same conference. And so what you see there is her and I catching up in Madrid. And I just wanted to sort of share with you two striking features of Janette, having known her for that period of time. I think Bonnie mentioned that it was just her joy in life. In Madrid, we had a great day together, visiting museums, talking, having cafe, stopping in at cafes. And I think she brought that joy to philosophy, and I think that's one of the features that she appreciated about philosophy. So the philosopher that I associate with Janette is Spinoza, because Spinoza too thought that philosophy, when it's done well, or thinking when it's done well, is actually all about joy. And the second feature I wanted to highlight about Janette is there was no ego. And it's rare, at least in where I work, to meet people where there is little to no ego. And I think that it's that feature of her that allowed her to contribute in ways that she did to the growth of VAPS and the warm feelings that most people who come to VAPS since her involvement have about the organisation, because she is always about other people. And I think that's why she travelled so extensively, because she wanted to be with people where they lived, where they were in their homes. So I feel it's a great privilege to have known her and to have known her for as long as I did. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to work with her as intimately as the people on the panel were able to do. So thank you.
See you. Oh, no.
Yeah, that was when we were out sightseeing in Madrid. And we hadn't planned it, and we had the most wonderful day. I'm so glad we did it.
yeah, sometimes there's things that unplanned things like that.
That's, I think that's
That's
really
really
good. Yeah, it's my partner. And again, we had a wonderful time in the trip, not only at the conference, but just seeing art around our families, finding places to live. And also, when we were there, it was International Pride Week, and we got to go to, we went out for dinner with the grandchildren, and we went out to the celebration of all these amazing people on floats and things, and we had the best time. And I remember Janette that night being, she always gave and she always smiled, like her smile, I think it's just everything about her smile. And even right at the very end when we visited her hospital, she still, when she saw us, we got that smile, which was amazing.
A moment, thank you.
I was just thinking of that when Jill was saying that you were out on the Pride Week, because that's Martin on the left and his wife, and we went out for dinner. This is after the VAPS conference dinner, and Martin had just finished his doctorate, and we were doing shots of black sambuca that then turned into Jaeger bombs, and Janette and I were out until 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had to be on a flight the next day, and I was just dead. And she was still keen to keep going. I was like, I can't keep with you.
Yeah, the capacity for Janette to want to kick off.
She's such a fun. I remember playing a game with her about boys, saying, because there's 5. So which one's the tallest, which one's the nicest, which is the kindest, which one's the smelliest, which one's the biggest thing. And she just it was just like all of the memories from all of you being small and big, and yeah, it's amazing.
I wanted to put this up because you didn't make it to this. You guys did such an amazing job of that aspect of ceremony, that aspect of remembering, and there was rooms dedicated to each aspect of her life, and in particular a room dedicated to her work in philosophy for children. And yeah, I think that one was the one that broke me. Yeah, actually no, I think it was your kids' little stories on the wall that probably broke me too. Obviously, Janette was also an academic. This is just a little list of some of the academic work that she did that was produced in journals. A lot of it collaborative with other people. I'm sure there's, if we looked further, we would find more of her work. This is her students. I'm not sure if this is Melbourne or the other. Where else was she at?
That's fair.
Yeah. But I was going to get Harry to talk about Janette's academic life.
So, I started working here at the University of Melbourne, I think it was in about 2012. So, and then I met Emmanuel at, I think it was a gifted and talented presentation. I think John Munro was there at the time. And it was through Emmanuel that I came to know Janette. I am the Director of Professional Experience and take courage of our mission education programs. We have really experienced teachers who go out and visit our pre-service teachers. So I thought Janette would be absolutely perfect in that role, that capacity to bring her skills in community inquiry and to teach some of the subjects that we do. That's very much informed by the community inquiry pedagogy. So But then I later found out that Janette had been working at the University of Melbourne much earlier than that and had been teaching some of the stuff that I had been taking over. So she predated me for quite a while. Can I say that she had completed her PhD under Patrick Griffin? And I don't know how many of you know Patrick Griffin, but he had supervised her for a bit of a stint there. Patrick Griffin is co-developed the developmental assessment or criterion reference approach to learning and assessment. And whilst it's just a theory, it's an evidence-based kind of approach. And I think Janette was exceptionally well placed to introduce criterion reference assessments and teaching and learning in the P4C space in communities of inquiry. And so I recall I was in Spain as well, introducing how one might go about demystifying assessing critical thinking competencies to our international colleagues. And I know I'm absolutely captivated by the kind of work that Janette had been doing under the direction of Patrick Griffin. So she was a huge asset to us. One to work with as well.
And this is obviously with adult students, and Emmanuel, you in some of the notes that I collected from you guys, you said something about Janette and bringing playfulness to certain spaces, and I just thought maybe you could elaborate a little bit on what you meant by that.
It's because it's a strange thing that we do education and philosophy, and when we put the two together, play is never far away, I don't think, from terrific practitioners like Janette who inspire their students. And it's an interesting kind of thing. I came from learning with some philosophers that were always very serious about their philosophy, and Janette and Phil Cam and others showed me a side of philosophy that is full of play, and it was really interesting to watch and observe that, because it's that side that we learn about when we practice philosophy with children, that affective side when we're in dialogue with others. It really matters that we're talking to the other person and that we're engaging with the other person. And humour is a way to open up a dimension of knowing the other person that is, part of what it is to do philosophy. I mean, the first word there is about love, and if love is not that effective side of engaging with somebody else, I don't know what it is, but definitely the playfulness was a way of Janette expressing that affection, that authentic affection that she had with other people when she wanted to engage with them in very serious conversations and dialogues around very fundamental issues in philosophy and education. And she was serious, at the same time playful. And I remember sometimes we would be in a conversation that a dialogue should be facilitating, all of a sudden I see that twinkle come in her eye, and okay, something's coming here. And you just never knew it was going to break out into a dance. It was going to be, usually it was a story that she remembered, whether it was from her family or an experience that she's had. So that made it absolutely enjoyable to do philosophy with Janette.
So Janette was a conference hopper. We've all been at conferences with her, either in Australia or overseas. So this is a collection of photos from many of the conferences, but definitely not all of them. And I think most of these ones are Facebook era ones, where digital camera ones, and who knows how many photos you have of conferences in all of the photo albums that you had at home. So obviously doesn't encapsulate everything, but I think this was in Beijing, the World Congress of Philosophy, and there's Xinguang Park, and you can see Susan Gardner Deep in Thought there. Again, there's Xinguang Park and Fazani from Iran and various other fields. You recognise other places there? No. Xinguang and Fazani. You know these spaces meeting, you know those spaces, don't you?
Yeah, the refracts stand out.
Yes.
And at beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was an epic. Yeah, I'm not sure which one.
Actually, I think that past photo is a significant photo with
Oh,
Marie
yeah.
France. I think it's important to talk about the way that Janette the way I sometimes interrupt. Sorry about this.
It's
But I
fine.
think-
That's the flow of this.
Yeah, I think it's really important to highlight, people that Janette worked with, like Marie France and Jen Glasser and Megan. She celebrated their work, like she brought it in as well, and that generosity of spirit, I think that others have spoken about, and that no ego kind of business, which was fundamental to Janette. I remember her introducing me to some of the writings of Marie France and the important research that she was doing. And it sort of ties in with that Patrick Griffin research that she was doing as well. And when some of the people working in philosophy of education weren't getting as much read as some of the key and fundamental texts, of course, were really important for us. But there were all these other researchers that were doing some important stuff as well, and she was very good at highlighting and bringing them into the reading, whether we were doing a level 2. I remember she would bring them to the table, wouldn't she, Phil, and suggest, like adjunct readings to what we were doing. So I just saw that and I remembered how she really pushed a lot of Marie France's work, and it's worthwhile looking up, by the way.
Yeah. If you see something, jump in, please. Again, I think World Congress with Susan and is it Arthur?
Yes.
And GIV.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. Comments in the background, manual, that's obviously Madrid, I'd say.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, you can see from
In the
something
smallest room in a restaurant on the hottest day in July in Madrid. Yeah.
I've got throughout here some of the messages that came through internationally. I'm not going to read them all, but just the italicized part is the bits that I pulled out as significant. My experience of Janette, this is Roseanne Reynolds, who was the chair of EPIC. My experience of Janette was one of joy and of passion for PWPC. I remember speaking to her about her time in South Africa at the EPIC conference in 2013, and she shared about her work with philosophy in Australia. And I'm grateful that I had a glimpse of Janette's full and in words of Mary Oliver, wild and precious life. I'm thinking of her family and friends. So again, a different perspective from, and Roseanne is from South Africa, right? Yeah. And that's her with Walter and Janette, I think in Switzerland, about Basel. Same. I was hoping Jen would be here today, but she's been busy moving house. But I'm sure she'll share thoughts with us who are having dinner tonight. And she often took the boys to some of these things. I've got photos of Jules and Micah. I've seen a few of you go to some of these. So you also participated and became philosophical thinkers throughout Janette's travels as well to many of these conferences.
Can I just jump in on
Yes, absolutely.
particular event? When I first met Janette, I knew of Janette, hadn't met her until the conference in Athens. It was a World Congress Philosophy Conference in 2014. So we're at the front, and it was the most beautiful setting at the foot of the Acropolis in the old 2,000-year-old theatre that was there. And all I could hear, so it was 5,000, I think, attendees, the biggest philosophy conference you can go to. And I'm standing around, I don't know anyone, and I hear an Australian accent arguing with one of the Greek assistants there. She had brought, I think it was Monica, that was there on that. She hadn't bought a ticket for him, and she was trying to argue with me. And so I said, and I said, you know, Janette, she said, yeah. I speak Greek, but sort of with Australian accent, a little bit broken. So there was I, for about half an hour, trying to convince, persuade the Greek ticket counter to let my Greek. And I failed miserably. Like they were pretty good, they kept to the street. And then Janette did what any proper philosopher would do. She snuck him in. Without my first name.
Philosopher breaking the rules.
I should report that to the World Congress.
And these are from South Africa. And then I think Singapore. Vancouver. This is one that I did attend with Janette, with Elena, Harry, you're in this one, with Matt Wills, I'm not sure.
Is that New Zealand name?
Maybe New Zealand, yeah. This is Seattle. I was hoping Michelle was going to be here today, but she was going to pop